Welcome everyone to our session. I will be, just for those that entered the room late, I will be sending this PowerPoint to all of the participants that signed up through sessions, and I will send the recording. So if anyone does need to leave early or wants to share this information with someone else, will absolutely be able to do so. Let me find out. Let's see. I think, yes, and thank you for just putting yourself on mute, but we will have an opportunity for questions. So feel free to write down your questions and we'll definitely have opportunity to talk through those. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, the agenda is going to be like really just looking through the cost of studying abroad so that you start to understand what it is you're trying to fund. A lot of students find themselves a little bit surprised about how much the other things that will cost them money. So we want to talk about that. We want you to really think about your financial situation so that you're very clear about what you need to do to budget to go abroad. Working with the financial aid office. So Monet again is here to present, to talk about how you can, well before you commit to any study abroad program, you can figure out how is your funding going to be impacted, how you can fund study abroad through many opportunities, both within campus and outside. And then we'll talk a little bit about finding UM funding options, how you find non-UM funding options, and then some key takeaways. So first, all of you, some of you might be looking to study abroad for the winter semester. Some of you might be looking to study abroad for the summer semester. No matter what term you're going abroad, every program through IPE has a finance tab within the study abroad opportunities. Within that finance tab, you'll be able to see the cost of your program. So you can see here, this is a particular program for winter and it costs $17,505. And then it tells you what that cost includes. And then every program will have what's called a budget sheet. That budget sheet will give you a series of information about what you'll be paying the university and then what you will also need to budget for that you might have to pay outside of the university. So let's take a look at that. This is an example of a budget sheet for a program fee semester opportunity. What does that mean, program fee? Program fee means that you are not charged the typical Michigan tuition and fees, but you're charged a flat rate. That rate might be very different than what you're charged here as a Michigan student for tuition and fees. That fee is charged, though, through the University of Michigan's billing system. That allows you as a student to have easy ability to work with the Office of Financial Aid and other entities so that funding can be directly applied to your UM bill. So that's a very nice opportunity. This budget sheet you see on the screen explains not just what the program fee is for this particular program, which is our Tech Accelerator program in Prague for a full semester. It also explains other fees you will need to take into consideration if you're doing this program. So for example, this program, the airfare might have been estimated at about $1,200. Local transportation is estimated within the budget, your meals, personal expenses, if you need to apply for a passport, any kind of passport photos, and then your visa application fees. So while the program fee that's being charged through University of Michigan is going to be $17,505, you have additional costs you need to budget if you're going to live in Prague for an entire semester. Just keep in mind, some of these are estimated. So for example, your estimated meals might be $2,000 for that term. But if you decide to dine out in very fancy restaurants every evening, you might end up spending a lot more than $2,000. So some of these things are estimates. Notice that for semester programs, a visa application cost is required, and that's very different than some of our other summer programs. Not every winter program requires that you get a visa, and that the visa is a different, might be a different cost depending on the program. So here is an example of a semester exchange program. So for our winter, when you go abroad for a winter term, you might either go on a program that has a program fee, like I just showed you, or, for example, if you're going to our partner program at the Universidad Pontificia Comillas in Spain, that is what's called an exchange program. That means that you are an exchange student abroad. You pay Michigan tuition and fees, what you would pay here if you studied at Michigan, but then you are paying all other expenses abroad. This is an example of that budget sheet. Just note that this means that you are paying Michigan tuition on your Michigan bill, but other estimated expenses such as housing is going to be paid in country. So you can see here, it says things like books and supplies, your health insurance, you're billed through the University of Michigan because all students going abroad are required to be billed for university health insurance through GeoBlue. And so notice that, for example, this is a visa application is also required for this program, and that estimated cost is $160. So all of these budget sheets are very helpful for you to know what is the true cost of studying abroad. Now, for those of students thinking about going abroad in summer, here is an example of a budget sheet for engineering in Paris. And these are costs based on summer 2023, but the current cost for summer 2024 is updated on our website. Spring and summer programs, you are all going to be paying what's called a program fee. You do not pay Michigan tuition and fees for any of our summer programs, but you are billed through the University of Michigan billing system. Again, that allows you to apply for federal financial aid or any funding options, and that gets applied directly, if it's through the University of Michigan, directly through the billing system. This budget sheet provides you with information about the program fee, but also estimated costs such as round-trip airfare, books and supplies, local transportation, personal expenses, your U.S. passport, and other estimated things that you would need to estimate if you were going to go abroad in summer. You can use this sheet to understand the complete expenses you would undergo to do this particular program. Summer programs typically include housing as a part of the program fee. So that's something to keep in mind. You can find, again, all of these budget sheets on the actual M-Compass page for that program. So I want to talk a little bit about funding opportunities through IPE and a few other funding opportunities. And then Monet is going to explain that from those budget sheets, how the Office of Financial Aid will help you understand what kind of funding you can receive. So IPE has what's called the College of Engineering Go Global Fund. All College of Engineering undergraduate students who are confirmed on an IPE study abroad program will be considered for this funding. So no additional application is required. Individual award amounts will vary based on your financial need. That's established by comparing the overall cost of the program, found on that finance tab, with any financial aid award amount and any other funding amounts that you might receive for summer. You're alerted if you're eligible for this after the financial aid piece comes into being awarded. For those applying for summer programs, that doesn't necessarily happen until sometime in March because you have to commit to the program. Students applying for summer programs, you do not yet commit until either sometime in January if you're approved, or if you're nominated or admitted sometime in December. You don't actually commit to the program until January. And then for our final deadline, you don't commit until mid-February. So you're not actually finding out how your financial aid can be applied until sometime in March. We also open up, once all the students are committed to our programs, an IPE Abroad paid blogger position. So for those of you that are very good at vlogs or blogs or any kind of social media, we invite all students to apply for this position, where you can then explain your experiences to other students and you would get paid. And all of these within the PowerPoint are hyperlinks where you can go in the future once I send this PowerPoint out to you, and you can look and review these particular opportunities again. For students looking to do an international internship, we do have an award up to $1,000 for those doing spring or summer opportunities. Other College of Engineering opportunities. The Office of Student Affairs offers a first-generation undergraduate experiential learning opportunity. So if you are a first-gen student, I would highly suggest you click into that opportunity. And again, I'll be sending out all of these links, and all of these links can be found on our funding page as well. The Office of Student Affairs also has a scholarships office where you can look to see and contact the office to inquire if you as an individual would be eligible for other funding opportunities. So I highly suggest you look into those individual awards. All of you should also look into your home academic departments through the College of Engineering. There are many departments that offer specific funding for you. Maybe you're a computer science student and you might be a student that might qualify for funding based on one of the many individual factors you have. So it's definitely important to ask all departments you're aware of, or any kind of opportunities that you might be eligible for through your College of Engineering home department. Other UM funding is definitely offered throughout the year. So this is one such funding opportunity for summer, where spring, summer, where you can apply for a scholarship to receive up to $3,000. Please note this deadline for this opportunity is December 4th. So if you're interested, you want to apply very, very soon. Other funding, such as the through the International Center, the Raoul Walberg International Summer Travel Award. So this is another opportunity. And again, this is located on our funding page. And the Office of Financial Aid has study abroad scholarships. So Monet is going to talk a little bit about that in just one moment. I would just share that M-Compass has a funding page. And I think you're all able to see, I just navigated to the funding page. Monet, can you see that? Awesome. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So you can search funding through the M-Compass site. And so that's another opportunity for you to do. You can see they have undergraduate funding. So you can click there, and then you can search for many different opportunities, such as, for example, Gilman scholarships, which I'll talk about. But you can look at other opportunities that are not necessarily tied to a major. So you can look through that as well. It's important to look at external funding opportunities. So for example, there are scholarship sites. This is a screenshot of our website where you can look at different types of outside funding opportunities, where you can do searches of mega databases to see if you might qualify. If you're traveling in the summer term and you're going through one of our partners, such as API, which is engineering in Iceland, or any of our engineering with CEA Kappa programs, they also have funding opportunities that are listed on the M-Compass pages. So you might be eligible for additional funding through those partners. So important, it's very important to understand your own financial situation before you can begin the process of finding funding. Understand what your funding opportunities are. Many awards, financial aid, grants, scholarships, loans may be used toward your cost of funding study abroad. So that's really important for you to understand. And it's really important to connect with Monet and her colleagues in the Office of Financial Aid, because you might want to do a program that's either through IPE or beyond our office, what we call beyond programs, or CGIS programs, or other programs. It's all of that. You can definitely work with the Office of Financial Aid. So I'm going to hand it over to Monet now, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the next slide.
All right, thanks, Diane. I hope that one of your biggest takeaways here is that there is so much funding out there available to you to go study abroad. I get super excited about it. I love being able to tell students that, like, yes, you can go do this amazing thing. So if you are a student who is currently receiving financial aid from our office, like you've submitted a FAFSA, you can get financial aid from our office for your study abroad program too. Kind of the best way. So Diane talked a lot about like the different budget sheets for each program and how some are, like program fee charging, and some are those exchange programs where you're being charged U of M tuition. And so your funding, like your aid eligibility from our office, looks a little bit different depending on if you are going on a program fee based program or a U of M tuition charging program. So we strongly recommend that you contact us to get an estimate of your aid that you can get from our office. We have a whole web page that's all about study abroad financial aid. I believe that the Office of Financial Aid, I believe that's a link to it. Yep, thanks, Diane. Yeah, it's all right here. Tons of good information. But really, and on here too, I think you can find that there's that estimate worksheet. Thanks, Diane. That worksheet you can fill out so we ask that you fill out the top portion of the worksheet, which has kind of like you detail out the costs that you just get from the budget sheet that you find on M-Compass. And then what we do, we fill in at the bottom in red there, kind of what, if you're eligible for any grants, and then any loans that you're eligible for too. So you can have a sense of that as, before you commit to any program. Right now, if you're studying abroad this winter, you should have your aid package for study abroad. If you're looking at studying abroad for summer term, spring or summer term, we are doing those estimates right now for you. So you can, fill this worksheet out and send it to us. We'll get back to you within a day or two. We have a dedicated study abroad financial aid email address. So if you have study abroad questions, I really encourage you to use that email address. It's that finaid.abroad email address there. I'll throw it in the chat too, but that's the one where you're going to get kind of a dedicated study abroad financial aid person answering your questions. So it's a good one to use. So fill out your worksheet, send it to us, and we'll get back. We'll give you back an estimate of the aid that you can expect from our office for your program. All right, next slide, Diane. Yeah, thank you. Okay, great. You have financial aid. You filled out that estimate worksheet. You've committed to a program. So how do you get your aid for your program? So the way it works is once you commit to your program through IPE, or really if you decide not to go through IPE, but another U of M study abroad office like CGIS. CGIS, if you don't know, that's the kind of LSA study abroad office. But so you've committed to a program. Then if you have a FAFSA on file with us, so you've applied for financial aid for this school year, And really this school year, I'm talking like the 23-24 school year. So that goes actually from fall and winter and spring and summer. So long as you submitted a FAFSA for this school year, you're good through the summer of 24. So you get this, your IPE or your CGIS advisor would give you a study abroad financial aid request form. And you fill out part of it, they fill out part of it, and then they send that to us. That's kind of what, that's the indicator for us that you are studying abroad. We go ahead and, make sure that your cost of attendance for your term abroad reflects like what you're actually paying. And that's where we, make sure that you're getting the right amount of aid that you're eligible for. The aid itself disperses like it's all tied to the U of M Michigan, like it's tied to the Michigan term start dates. So with study abroad, so many of the programs, like they're not exactly aligned to the Michigan term dates, but your financial aid is tied to that. So you get your aid dispersed 10 days before the start of the Michigan term. So like this winter, that means that's going to happen like January 2nd. For the spring term, it's going to be like late April. Summer term, it's going to be late June that funding is going to disperse. It's going to pay towards any charges that you have on your account for the term. So if you're paying U of M tuition because you're in an exchange program, great, it'll pay towards that. If you are being charged a program fee, it's going to pay towards that. And then if there's anything that's remaining, that kind of remainder gets refunded to you. So you can use that for, your airfare or personal expenses, whatever expenses you have while abroad. All right, next page, please. So important, when you are getting that refund issued, we really recommend that you have direct deposit set up. That way, it just expedites your refund, goes straight to your bank account. Otherwise, yes, I'll answer your question, Maya, in just a second. So the aid, that refund, if you don't have direct deposit, then it gets sent via paper check to your like active address on file. So it's just way better if you have direct deposit set up. You can do that through Wolverine Access if you haven't already, but I really recommend that. Important thing is that in order to be eligible for financial aid in the spring or summer terms, you need to be enrolled in at least 6 credits. Those 6 credits have to apply towards your degree. So, I mean, that's, pretty encompassing of what that can mean, but they have to be 6 credits that are going to come back to your Michigan degree. During the winter term, if you're studying abroad in the winter term, it's really likely that you're going to be in at least 12 credits. But for spring and summer, it really is that baseline 6 credits that you have to be registered in to get aid. Fortunately, most, if not all, most of all the IPE programs are at least 6 credits. So if you're in an IPE program, you're good. So like Diane mentioned,
one thing. Could you just talk about if a program has variable credits, or how aid might impact for a summer program if you're taking like between 6 to 9, and then like there's varying degrees of how aid works?
There is, and it's so it's spring and summer aid is just a little more challenging because we're looking at like your aid eligibility over like the full 16 weeks of spring summer, right? Because the way Michigan does their terms, there's like the 8-week spring term, and then there's the 8-week summer term, and then there's the overall 16-week spring and summer term. So your aid eligibility, we're kind of looking at like, what is it in the term that you're registered in? So if you're registered in the spring term, that 8-week spring term, or if you're registered in like the 8-week summer term, we're looking at like what your aid eligibility is like in that individual term. There are some programs through IPE that kind of span spring and summer, and your enrollment would be in that 16-week spring summer term. So your aid eligibility is a little bit different. That's why that estimate sheet is so important. Part of when you fill it out, we ask that you like indicate how many credits you're going to be taking. Because if you and we ask that you indicate, which term, if it's spring, summer, if it's spring or summer, please make sure to fill that out. If you are a Pell Grant recipient, like your aid, like your Pell Grant amount is tied to how many credits you're taking. So, if you're taking 6 to 8 credits, you get one amount of Pell Grant. If you're taking 9 credits, though, you actually get more Pell Grant. So, just again, something worth, having us fill out that estimate worksheet for you. Yeah, good question, Diane. So some students choose to go on like those beyond U of M programs. Really, that's just you going independently, not through U of M, not through IPE, not through U of M. You're not an enrolled U of M student during that term. And so really, because you are not an enrolled U of M student, you're not eligible for U of M financial aid. We can still process your federal financial aid. So if you have a Pell Grant, if you have federal loans, we can still process that for you. You need to have an approved consortium agreement on file. It's a little bit more involved. If that's something you're looking to do, we ask that you meet with a study abroad financial aid advisor to kind of talk through the process. So if you're looking at that, make sure that you reach out to us at that finaid.abroad email address. And then really, that's the biggest thing too, is that we are here to help. It's me and my other 2 teammates, Morgan and Sam, that we are kind of like your study abroad team in the financial aid office. So please reach out to us. We're helpful. Like we want you to go study abroad because you're going to have like these amazing experiences, and do it now while like there's a whole institution willing to help you pay for it. I wanted to come back to Diane mentioned like the Office of Financial Aid Study Abroad Scholarships. We used to have like an application process for them, no longer though. So really, if you are studying abroad, we will consider you for a study abroad scholarship. You'll just kind of get a notification from our scholarship team that you were awarded a scholarship. So just something to kind of keep in your back pocket that you will be considered, just like the Go Global scholarships from IPE. So I think that's it. Let me, yeah. I got a question. Can I answer it like sent directly to me? Okay, so I got a question. It says, is the financial aid estimate what will be dispersed in our account, or by when will we know the exact amount we will receive? Honestly, at this point, the estimates are pretty accurate. Like they should be pretty accurate in terms of like the funding from our office. When we give you the estimates, we only speak to like our aid. We can't speak to like, is any global scholarships or any other funding you're going to get. So we just put on there what we know that you're going to get from us. So it is pretty accurate. The funding, so for spring and summer financial aid for your programs, we work, I think kind of this year, we're looking to have your financial aid packages set by like the end of March. So you would know, and hopefully before then, but by the end of March that you would have like your aid package set for your, travel in the spring or summer. And then if you're traveling in the winter, like you would have that sometime in November from us. So kind of like all IPE students who are traveling in the winter, they have their aid package set from us.
We had a great question in the chat too. What are the Go Global and OFA scholarship awards based on? So Go Global, I would just mention in general. So if you go to the IPE website, I think you can all see that right now, where you're seeing funding. Right here, you can see IPE Go Global Fund, and there's a whole M-Compass page that explains the eligibility and how you're considered for funding. So I don't know if there's a similar for the scholarships for OFA, sir.
Yes. So it's it's kind of a mixture of need and merit based that our scholarships team is looking at for the OFA scholarships. So it's a good question. And then Diane, I got another question too in the chat
this
too.
is great.
So, okay. So if we are already getting lots of financial aid during the fall and winter semester for the regular schooling, can we expect to receive a similar amount of aid for study abroad in the spring, summer? Really good question. So it depends. Like, yes, I'd probably yes is my greater answer, but with a caveat. Like there are some funds, like some scholarships or grants that you might be receiving right now that aren't available in the spring and summer. Like they are just fall and winter only. So you wouldn't have access to those. But I do want to tell you, just like to encourage you guys right now, this summer is going to be a good time to go study abroad. Like you're going to get like financial aid for spring and summer. Like every year, financial aid for spring and summer, it looks a little bit different each year. It's based on, I don't know, how much funding we have left from the fall and winter terms. This year is going to be, I think, a good year to go. I think that there will be a significant amount of funding available to students and even students who don't necessarily get much grant funding during the fall and winter. Like you actually might be eligible for more grant funding in the spring or summer this year. So this is a good year to go travel. I cannot promise the same thing for, spring and summer of 2025, but for 2024, this is a good year. So yes, to answer your question mostly. But again, that estimate form, super important. Send that estimate and we'll get it back to you. Okay, I have another question, Diane. Okay.
I was just going to say for students in this room right now, if you're thinking spring, summer, you can do the estimate now before you even apply to a program.
Yeah.
So all of those budget sheets, as I mentioned before, just in case you didn't remember. So if you're on our website and you're looking at finding an international experience, and let's say you're interested in going to the Shanghai Jiaotong Institute in China, you can go on the finance page and the budget sheets are listed right in that finance page. And you can see how much, this is quite an inexpensive program. So you can take up, for this particular program, you can take up to 12 credits and the cost of the program is $5,000. I would also mention for this program that there is an additional, I just thought I would mention it because this program has an additional scholarship. It's called the Rogel Scholarship. And there's quite a bit of funding offered to go to China. So if you're interested, you can go on this page. You're automatically considered similar to all the other once you apply. So you must be committed to the program going the Shanghai Jiaotong program.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I thought I would mention that if anyone's interested in that program.
Yeah, and we've been doing a lot of estimates for like summer programs for IPE already. So please, you can send them to us. We'll get them done for you. I had another question where somebody asked if the Hale Scholarship covers all costs for a winter IPE semester. Good question. It does not. Like the Hale Scholarship is like a specific dollar amount that's tied to your U of M tuition, right? So the Hale's meant to cover your tuition and fees here at Michigan. So what happens when you study abroad, regardless of if you're going on a program fee or a U of M tuition like exchange program, that dollar amount of your U of M tuition of like whatever your Hale scholarship is during the winter term, like that's the dollar amount that you'll get, but we don't increase the scholarship to like if your like program fee is more than the Hale scholarship, we don't increase it to account for that. It truly is just like dollar, the same dollar amount. Okay. Another question. I've got another one. Okay. As an LSA computer science student applying for the IP programs, what funding could I apply for since I'm not a COE student? Yeah, so not the Go Global, right, Diane? So not
Right.
the like specific College of Engineering or Go Global funding, but anything else is open to you. You won't be able to apply for the LSA funding though either, because LSA scholarships, they only fund students who are, well, you know what, actually, I'm not going to say that. I'd recommend asking, like reaching out to LSA scholarships
Right.
to see if they would fund you for an IPE program.
You
I
could
don't,
look, yeah, you could look on the funding page here through M-Compass, and you could try to see, you could do some filters. But for example, you can see like what parameters some of these might require. So they might be requiring you to be in a CGIS program. So you'd have to do a good look and see.
yeah. Um, but LSA scholarships has a lot of study abroad funding. So if you, yeah, it's worth reaching out to them to just check. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, well, and one last thing too. If you are an out-of-state student, I really, Diane, again, talking about that U of M tuition charging program versus a program fee program. Um, if you were an out-of-state student, I would really recommend, like, I would strongly encourage you to take a look at the ones that charge program fees rather than U of M tuition, just because it can be significantly less expensive for you to go study abroad than and pay that program fee than if you're paying U of M tuition and all the other study abroad expenses. So it's just like you might be able to go study abroad cheaper if you look at a program fee, if that's something that matters to you. And but it's just a lot of times it can be much less expensive for an out-of-state student to go study abroad than it is to be here in Ann Arbor taking classes. So just something to
Absolutely.
take a look at.
Great. Well, we'll go through the rest of the slides, and if we still have more questions, we encourage you to put them in the chat. So if you are a Pell Grant awardee, there is an opportunity where you can receive up to $5,000 so you have to be a US citizen, federal Pell Grant recipient, and studying at the undergraduate level at a 2 or 4 year institution. So at U of M, that's definitely true. So you can go to this website, and IPE will be doing an information session about the Gilman scholarships sometime in early January. We have a couple of students who received this scholarship in summer 2023. So they're willing to present to talk about how the application process works. So if that applies to you, keep that in mind. And if you haven't already signed up for our newsletter, because that's where we're typically announcing this. And then there's also a number of other opportunities. So there is this at a glance guide to looking at funding. You can go to this QR code and take a look at things. A lot of this might already be in the M-Compass in M-Compass, but you can take a look at this particular sheet, which gives you a lot of information about eligibility right at a glance. So again, I'll be sending you this PowerPoint and you can be willing to take a look at these links. And don't forget to look at like your hometown funding or things like, organizations that provide funding that you might be in contact with. The other thing is there's the Office of National Scholarships and Fellowships. A lot of those are very specific to things like critical languages or things like that. But if you're thinking about very different opportunities, you can definitely visit these other offices. And just a few key takeaways, and then I'm happy to answer the questions in the chat. Review your funding options early. So as Monet mentioned, now is a great time for summer to be looking at these budget sheets and to work with the Office of Financial Aid. Find out when funding applications open and when deadlines are coming up, because you don't want to miss a deadline to apply. Understand the eligibility criteria. Ask a lot of questions to those that have applied for scholarships in the past and understand when funds are available. We've also heard students think that they're going to get the funding even before they go abroad, and that's typically not the case. As Monet mentioned, the timing for at least the Office of Financial Aid funding comes really right before you're going to study abroad. Questions about studying abroad? So our summer application deadline is coming up. Our priority deadline is December 6th. Our final deadline is February 8th. So come and talk with our peer advisors. We have peer advisors Monday through Friday from 1 to 4. And then you can also meet with our IPE advisors and schedule appointments with them. And then you can also contact either of our offices through these forms. So you can take a quick glance at this or copy this down. But I'm happy to answer any other questions that came in. Okay, I think Monet, you answered the one question, right? On the estimate worksheet, what is the sponsoring unit? So if you're doing an IPE program, you check off IPE. But if you're doing like a CGIS program or another entity, you would check that off.
Yeah, and actually, I think in our like most recent revision, I think we just took that sponsoring unit section off. There is still the place to like mark off if it's IPE, CGIS, whoever, but there's been this line for sponsoring unit. I think that's removed in our like most recent iteration, just because it's kind of confusing. So
wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming to the session. We're still willing. I'm going to stop recording now. Let me see here.